Welcome to Unfinished Conversations, where turning silence into strength happens one voice at a time. Here is your host, Rebecca Lombardo.
Well, welcome everyone to Unfinished Conversations with Rebecca Lombardo. Today I am speaking with Dr. Robi Ludwig. I'm a huge fan and I can't stop fangirling. It's been
Oh,
years that we've known each other, and
yes.
it's such a thrill for me to be able to speak with you again. I can't even say it into words. It's such a thrill, and I just
Yes, we actually met before the pandemic as
mm-hmm.
I was starting a show called Talking Live with Dr. Robi Ludwig in this beautiful location, which really no longer exists in the same way.
Mm-hmm.
And you came in from, I don't know, Michigan? Was it
Michigan,
Michigan?
yeah. Mm-hmm.
You came in from Michigan, and I remember hearing about the drive, and I was like, oh, God bless this woman for that tremendous drive. And you came with your husband,
Yep,
and it was a great conversation. So I'm so happy to join you on your show and get into the topics that most interest you.
absolutely. And you're the perfect person to discuss this with, especially being that you wrote your book,
Yeah.
and it's I'm just thrilled. So I'll just jump right in.
Okay. Sounds
All
good.
right. So much of my recent focus has been on women's wellness and mental health, especially for women in their 40s and 50s. From your perspective, what makes this stage of life so emotionally significant?
Well, I did a whole book on it called Your Best Ages Now. And I was inspired when I was, turning that big number. And we all have that big number in our lives. And I was reflecting all the messages that we were getting in our culture that encourage women to take themselves out of the competition, if you will, and it's almost like an internal expiration date that I didn't want women to have to do to themselves. I really felt and saw all around me that there was an agelessness and so many positive studies out there that showed what women in midlife can do, how it actually can be a very, very happy time in their lives. So I wanted to reframe the possibilities, what I was experiencing in my own life, and what I hoped women could embrace and give themselves the gift of knowing they don't have to take themselves out of any game that they want to be in. So that was the motivation. And it turned out that there was a lot of science we never stop learning. There's a growth mindset that helps us to learn and embrace new things. And neuroplasticity, our brain is always growing and creating new brain cells. And so that was my message. I really wanted people to know that biologically, we still had a lot of possibilities, and emotionally, we still have possibilities and new surprises in our life. So that was my main message. That was my main goal. And I think we were really able to achieve that in this book that I wrote.
Absolutely. Just a little backstory on me. I've turned 53 and I'm completely reinventing
Yes.
myself, with everything that I've got going on. And, I'm actually transferring into the life coaching uh genre, I guess you could
That's
say.
great. That's great.
So you're absolutely right. There is so much more ahead of me and ahead of every woman that wants to take those big steps. And I find it fascinating. I was worried about turning 50, that it was all over for me.
Yeah.
So you're absolutely right. And your book is wonderful.
Thank
You were
you.
kind enough to give me a copy of it when I made that trip, and I love it. So
Oh, I'm
thank
so
you.
glad. I'm so glad. We learn from others too.
Hmm.
The inspiration from other people's stories and how they live their lives. And one of the things that I notice is that by the time you reach 40, and 40 is young these days, and I
Hmm.
think I do think slowly but surely we are looking at age differently
Hmm.
because there is an agelessness when people are excited about their lives and passionate and really feel like they have something to offer. And not only that, we have a whole kind of history where we get to know ourselves, where we get to experience life, where we get to experience relationships. And so there's less of this disease to please because we understand that other people are just other people. And the people that we want to please are the people who matter most to us.
Hmm.
We want to please ourselves, and then we want to be in relationships where we want to be understood and loved for who we are and who we're not.
Hmm.
So that is, a gift that keeps giving, the contacts you've made, what you've learned about yourself along the way, who you were when I interviewed you. Look at the journey that you have taken,
Hmm.
and it's only gotten better.
Hmm.
It's you have a whole world ahead of you and gifts to share with people who will benefit from your experiences from one or even before one to 50.
Hmm.
And I came across this very interesting, I guess it was like a meme or like this Instagram saying, and it was like, why can't age be considered like a video game? And
Hmm.
like you reach all these new levels. And I think that's how we should experience age. If we're lucky enough, knock wood, to have our health, then really there's so many opportunities for us.
Hmm. Absolutely. So many women reach midlife feeling like they've spent years taking care of everyone else
Yeah.
and somehow lost touch with themselves. Where does someone begin when they want to reconnect with who they are?
It really means giving permission to yourself. And one of the things that women really understand in midlife is it's so important to have those moments where you get in touch with what's going on in your mind, what your dreams are now, because sometimes we go through life, and you're right. There is a lot of caregiving. Either we're taking care of children, we might be taking care of parents. And so the first thing I recommend also to people who are in that situation is please get support
Hmm.
because we need a community. And I think when we arrive at midlife, we realize nobody is doing it all alone. That's not the way we're supposed to do it. That's not the way human beings are designed. We do best when we have a supportive community that is allowing us to have time and space for ourselves and to figure out who we want to be. So it's giving ourselves permission, because the fact of the matter is, if someone is draining themselves
Hmm.
and depleting themselves, then you can't be a good person for anyone around you.
Right.
So some people are very other motivated. So I say for those people who really want to please or really want to show up or are perfectionistic, that if you are not feeding yourself and putting boundaries around yourself where you need to walk around the block and have a conversation about what's important to you, or with a dear friend, or with your spouse or partner, then you are not honoring who you're meant to be. So it's understanding the necessity of that time out to plug into what's next. What do I want now? Is there something that I always wanted to do that I just didn't have time to do? And now I do.
Hmm.
And once you find that passion and spark, I think people feel very energized by that, but it's
Mhm.
really important to give yourself that permission and to know that when you are able to give that to yourself, you're not only enriching your own life, you are really enriching the lives of others who have contact with you.
Right. Absolutely. And now your book, Your Best Ages Now, challenges the fear and stigma around aging. Why do you think aging can feel so tied to identity, relevance, attractiveness, and self-worth for women?
Yeah. Well, a lot of pressure is put on women to be beautiful and attractive and seductive.
Mhm.
So part of our power, if you will, is how pretty you're considered and what options that offers you. And beauty is power in a way. It can help you in some ways feel better about yourself or have more options in life. So I think that there is this truth that's out there. Of course, what is beauty? People who consider themselves beautiful are often experienced as beautiful by the outside world. So there
Mhm.
is something about that self confidence that has nothing to do with objective beauty. You could see the most gorgeous person in the room, and if they have no personality and they have no spark and they're not connecting properly, then their appeal is greatly diminished. And we live in a culture that is fairly young. I mean, I don't know that women in foreign or European countries are as obsessed with youth as American culture is.
Mhm.
And, our youth is really idealized as the place where all great things can happen. And it's a myth, really. Great things can happen in your youth, but they can also happen later on.
Mhm.
And we can find the job that gives us the most joy later in life. We can find the love of our lives later in life, that there aren't these very pre-prescribed dates, that once we move past can't exist for us anymore. I mean, we
Mhm.
have to be willing and open to look for it. So I got a front row seat in my private practice. I mean, I worked with two older women. They were in their 60s when they came to see me. And they had a very troubled life. Their personalities were very difficult. It wasn't easy for them to create or allow love into their lives. And by the time they were 60, it was their right timing.
Mhm.
And these were women who didn't necessarily love men, and were very kind of suspicious about relationships. And through the therapy, I mean, each one really found the love of their lives. They were ready to have a relationship later in life that was beautiful and fulfilling and to find what they wanted. They knew who they were, they knew what they wanted, and they figured out how to be the person that would be appreciated by another person
Mhm.
looking for them. So seeing that, knowing that this can happen, gave me a very different perspective on life. It's not the age that determines our happiness, it's what's going on in our lives that determines our happiness.
Mhm.
So it's not about an age. I mean, an age is just part of our journey, and we
Mhm.
want to learn from each phase. So I think it's really important to understand that uh, age is not the only determining factor to success and happiness and fulfillment.
Absolutely. Now, now, what are some of the emotional or psychological struggles women in midlife may minimize because they think they should have figured it all out by now?
Well, we are human beings. And as long as we're living, hopefully we are learning.
Mhm.
And so we figure out some things, but we're never going to have everything figured out. So
Right.
to really embrace that growth mindset, for as long as I live, there are going to be new things to learn. They're going to be new experiences to have. And, to keep themselves open to the surprises of life and the miracles of life. I don't know if I answered your question, but what was the question? I think I went off on a tangent.
No, you're fine. You're fine. Women feel like maybe they should have everything all figured out by now.
Oh, no, we never have it all figured out. We have some things figured out, and there's always more to figure out. So women are very good at shaming themselves.
Mm-hmm.
I should have
Absolutely.
this, I could have that. Then there's kind of the unlived life, right? The
Mm.
life we thought we were going to live versus
Right.
the one that we actually lived. And there's the struggle of, it's very easy for people to feel victimized or feel sorry for themselves. And we really need to work on, how do we want to approach life so it can offer us the most possibilities?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is the best thing that anyone can do for themselves. That's why therapy and coaching is so important.
Mm-hmm.
We benefit from the wisdom of others. We
Right.
benefit from continuing to learn. We benefit from teaching and sharing what we already know.
Mm-hmm.
So, to understand that as long as we're in life, to consider it like a school, we're not going to have it all figured out. That's not the way life is. We will have some things figured out at some times.
Mm-hmm.
And if that is good enough, I think people will feel more satisfied with themselves. But we should always be learning and growing and learning from others and mentor and be mentored.
And I'm always telling people to never should yourself. Should is a
Yeah.
horrible word. It's just, I should be this or I should be that. It
Yeah.
just drags you down, and it's just, it's not something that you should even have in your vocabulary, in my opinion.
It's very tough to deal with the shoulds.
Mm-hmm.
And we are very aspirational people. So once we arrive there, in some ways there's no there.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's, have you ever done kind of hiking? I was going to say mountain climbing and make
Mm-hmm.
myself sound way more athletic than I really am. But when you're hiking, you see this one space and you're like, oh, once I get there, it's going to be great. But you realize there's no there. There's always another space you want to get
Mm-hmm.
to. And then once you get to the top, you're like, okay, what's next? So there's no there.
Mm-hmm.
That's the one thing. And if you really feel a hunger in your heart for something, figure out something pragmatic for yourself. How can I include a little part of that into my life? So
Mm-hmm.
if you always wanted to be a teacher, how can you figure out how to include that in your life? It's not always determined by getting a doctorate.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we become by doing, by volunteering. Sorry if you hear the
Right.
horns, it's New York City, so it's a loud place.
Mm-hmm.
But that's how we do it. If it's important to stop and say, okay, well, I can stay in this abyss of lost opportunity and victimization and misery. And it's okay to grieve,
Right.
to say, we can't do everything. We can't choose every road. It's
Right.
not possible, right? We have to pick one. And I do think it's really helpful to have somewhat of a spiritual perspective, in the sense that what's meant for you will find you, and
Mm-hmm.
the timing will be when you're ready. And if
Right.
you want to move that along a little bit, fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So many people listening may be dealing with depression, anxiety, grief, trauma, or major transitions. What do you wish more people understood about rebuilding after life, knowing you or after it's dragged you down?
Well, life is tough,
Hmm.
and it's a hard knocks. And some lives are tougher than others. Some phases are tougher than others. And so, what I would say is, for anything that you're experiencing, don't do it alone. Find your people. There are good therapists out there, there are good doctors out there. If you feel spiritually enriched is helpful in your journey, fantastic. I can't impress upon people enough. Don't be a lone ranger. You don't
Mhm.
have to be. I have a patient, she's diagnosed with schizoaffective disorder, which is pretty tough. So
Mhm.
sometimes she'll have a psychotic depression, and there will be factors that make it hard for her to function, although she's been tremendously successful, works full time, published a book. Like, she's really has a husband, has a child, she's really done beautifully in life. And sometimes she'll say, well, I don't want to ask for help because I feel like I should be able to do it alone. And I was
Oh,
like,
shit again.
no, that's not the way it works. None of
Mhm.
us do it alone.
Mhm.
If you look at a successful person, they didn't do it alone. Nobody does it alone. So we all need help. And so to embrace the right kind of help, I would say, is really important.
Mhm.
And, find the people in your life who you want to be like so they pull you up,
Mhm.
because our environment really impacts who we become, and to make sure that we have cheerleaders in our lives.
Mhm.
People say, oh my God, that's so exciting.
Right.
And, friends can't always be like that. Family can't always be like that. I'm not saying to get rid of people prematurely, but align yourselves and position yourselves with people who want good things for you.
Right. Support groups would be
Yes, very much so.
very good.
Very much so.
Mhm.
Um, there are national support groups, really important.
Mhm.
And what's so great is there's a universality to the human condition. And
Mhm.
just knowing that you're not alone, that other people are having a similar experience, it's very tempting to say, I'm the only one who's having this experience. It's just me.
Mhm.
Everybody else is fine. Everybody else's life is photoshopped or better or easier or this or that. We have our life. And it's best to think of ourselves as almost a creative art project. Who do we want to be? Who do we want to turn ourselves into? Who are we inspired by? And to really look towards, how do I pull myself out and become the person that I want to be now? Who do I want to be now? What have
Mhm.
I learned from my past? What is my past meant to teach me?
Mhm.
And use all that knowledge. What I would say in life is learn quickly so that
Mhm.
we don't have to repeat the lesson over and over again, because that's time consuming.
Right.
Learn quickly, find your role models, continue learning, plug into your talents, find your passion, and find good people around you. And I can say, and I'm older than you, the things that matter a lot to me are my connections, the investments I made earlier in life in the people who are important, and maintaining those connections, the people that remember you when,
Mhm.
the people who shared various chapters in your life with you, the people who love you. Those are the people who are invaluable, and you can't replace them. And that really is the beauty of life, sharing those moments.
And two, I think that, and you may or may not agree, I think that those things can sometimes change. You
Yes,
can learn and decide maybe this is my path right now, but it can change and develop
yes.
and become something even bigger.
I would say be curious.
Mm-hmm.
What's next? And sometimes doors do close and you don't want them to close.
Mm-hmm.
And I say, find a new door,
Reinvent
pick yourself
yourself.
up, pick
Mm-hmm.
yourself up and find out what's next. And it may look a little different. And, your journey may be very varied. And I'm not saying keep everyone in your life. I'm not saying we're meant to save everybody. There's some
Right.
people who don't deserve access to us,
Right. Mm-hmm.
right? And we need to eliminate them. We don't need to hate on them. We just need to say, our time together has ended.
Right. Hmm.
And
Got a few of those.
we all do. And it's a little sad too
Hmm.
sometimes because something happens and you can't unsee it.
Hmm.
And sometimes people aren't healthy enough to stay in
Right.
your circle. Sometimes they're too envious or they want to stay in a certain place that you are moving away from. And
Right.
so that also is a part of life. And just to be more forgiving of ourselves,
Hmm.
we're probably more similar than dissimilar. And try to forgive yourself, try to learn, try to do better if that's what you need to do to like yourself more. But like, what would help me like myself a little better? What would help me feel like I'm moving in the right direction?
Hmm.
And create things yourself because sometimes waiting to be chosen is not the way to go. And
Right.
what I do like about kind of our new media is people are choosing themselves.
Hmm.
They're not waiting to be chosen because that makes you vulnerable.
Hmm. Absolutely. So your show, The Pivot, it focuses on life-changing moments. Um, why do some people grow from pivotal moments while others feel stuck, ashamed or afraid to move forward?
Well, I do think people are raised with different messages.
Hmm.
So, um, you know, they experience something and then they say, I'm taking myself out of the game. And maybe that's best for them.
Hmm.
People have different resilience tolerances.
Yeah.
And their resiliency is more fragile. And so they need to make different choices. Some people need to heal before they can move forward.
Hmm.
And I don't know that we're getting better, but about the grieving process, which not only happens with a person, but also happens with moments in our lives or situations that were tremendously disappointing, right? Or felt
Hmm.
like failures. So I think the people that move forward, they have a resilience. They have somewhat of an optimistic mindset, which is different than being positive all the time or happy all the time.
Hmm.
Our emotions experience vicissitudes. We're not meant to be happy and then stay there. That's not realistic. So I think we have some unrealistic goals, but we can be optimistic. We can look for the positive in our lives. We can look for the open doors. We can look for those lucky moments and prepare for them. So
Hmm.
there's that. And it's a willingness. It's just a willingness. Like stopping is just not an option.
Hmm.
Keep moving forwards. I think, and some people are more wired that way than others.
Hmm. Well, I know that you were only able to do a half an hour today. And
Thank you
I
for,
respect that. I absolutely respect that. I do have this one last question that
sure, of course.
it's purely a selfish question that I wrote
That's
up
fine.
last night. Um, you do a great deal of consulting.
Hmm.
You're all over the place, and I love it. You do various programs for various topics, and I love to watch it. And I have a question about, do you have a favorite topic that you like to consult on that you really enjoy coming back for over and over again?
Hmm. That is such a interesting question. And a tough one because I really love psychology.
Hmm.
And so the psychology of what's going on in the world around me and sharing the latest studies and figuring out how the latest psychology can really assist people is where I find my interest. So it's not so specific,
Hmm.
but it's really true. So I just, I love psychology in general, how
Hmm.
it can influence how people approach themselves and their lives and gain insight into complex situations, and hopefully can have information that helps them have better relationships with themselves and those around them.
Hmm. And what about crime?
Well, I do love crime. I do love it because the interesting thing about crime is that there are people who are wired differently,
Hmm.
but in some ways, these criminals are relatable, but
Yeah.
we don't act on it. So
Hmm.
I think that's what's so interesting, the fact that most people can stop themselves
Right.
and these people can't.
Hmm.
So what prevents them from putting the brake on their emotional dysregulation
Hmm.
is what I continue to find really interesting.
Yeah. And
I mean,
the
because there are times, I mean, listen, we live in a world where there's rage bait, where politics is dividing people and getting people to dismiss each other and be enraged and hateful and all of those
Mhm.
things. And so it's an emotion that people can get to pretty quickly.
Right.
But how do we stop from crossing the line still remains an interesting question to me.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's the true crime genre is growing and growing and growing, and it's just become so popular. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm a fan, and
Yeah.
I follow quite a bit of it.
Yeah. Well,
Documentaries and everything,
mhm.
you know.
It's fascinating to watch. And there, as we can see, sadly, there are just so many stories to follow,
Hmm.
right? And they
Right.
come up in different ways. And as we sit as an audience, also, we get to feel a little better than these people who are
Hmm.
committing the crime. So in some ways, the audience becomes the psychologist, the judge and jury,
Hmm.
the identified with either party, right?
Hmm.
So it allows us to really vicariously experience so many emotions, similar to
Right.
like horror flicks, right?
Right.
That, and it's safe. It's a safe way to dabble in murder, right? We can get into it, we can identify with it, we can be scared by it, um, but we're not acting on it. We're
Right.
just relating to the story.
Learning and picking sides.
Yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
and judging,
Hmm.
right? Because we
Right.
can safely judge a murderer. There aren't too many things we can judge in this world
Right.
without the political correct police kind of
Hmm.
coming after us, even for things that might be really benign. So,
Hmm.
murder is kind of the one last bastion that we can say, you're wrong, you're bad. And
Hmm.
even then, there's controversy, but
Right.
we can get away with it a little bit more with murder.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. This has been a delight. It really
Thank you.
has.
You're a delight, and best of luck with your show and
Thank
all
you.
your future adventures. I know there are going to be many.
Thank you so much. And I really appreciate it. We're hoping that the show is going to air tomorrow,
Oh,
actually.
wow. Okay, so just let me know and I'll give a heads up.
Absolutely.
It'll
I will
be
send
airing on my
you.
son's birthday.
Oh,
Send me and I'll
fabulous.
promote. I'll put it up for you.
Absolutely. I'll be in touch for sure. And
Okay.
again, thank you so much for
And
taking
just
the
stay
time.
connected to me
I will.
and let me know what you're doing. Stay connected.
I
Always love
will.
hearing about it.
I will. Fantastic. Thank you so much. And I
Okay.
appreciate it. Bye-bye.
Thank you. I appreciate you. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
This has been Unfinished Conversations. Thanks for tuning in. Catch us next Friday for a new episode.